Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's great having you with us. Let's talk about the book. It's called Hard Choices.
Yes.
It lends to an obvious question. What's the hardest choice you've ever had to make?
Oh, well, there's so many hard choices. And I think that's what I try to say in the book, is that everybody faces hard choices. You know, what kind of job you're going to get, whether you keep it, whether you lose it, what you do if you lose it, to get married, to stay married, raising your children, dealing with health problems. Everybody faces hard choices. And so do countries. And what I tried to do is to sort of pull the curtain back to talk about some of the hard choices that we faced when I was Secretary of State. One of the ones I write about at some length is the decision to go after Bin Laden in Pakistan, which was a very difficult decision. A million things could have gone wrong. So it was a hard choice, and thankfully it turned out right.
Many would say, one term, you've done the book, you've put it to bed. It lays the groundwork for you to run for president for 2016. Now, you've been quite reluctant to say whether or not you're going to run. You've actually said in the past you'd be a little bit crazy to do so.
Yes.
Are you still a little bit crazy?
Not sure yet. And part of the reason that I wanted to take this time and to write the book and reflect on what I had done is so that I could get a much clearer idea of what I want to do in the future. And also, I traveled to 112 countries. I wanted to travel in my own country. I wanted to see what was happening in my own country. And I've had the most extraordinary experience with this book, being able to do that. I'm also about to become a grandmother, which you know, I can't claim credit for, but obviously, but
you had a part at some stage.
Yeah, I did have at the very beginning. But you know, I just want to relish that experience. So I'm thinking all of this. I am pondering it.
In the book, you say that you got Iraq, and I quote, wrong, plain and simple. With your experience in mind and the threat of ISIS, the threat of a caliphate, a separate state, the chaos that appears to be reigning in Iraq and Syria now, do you think you could have done more?
That's a great question. And as I title the chapter about Syria in my book, it's a wicked problem because there's almost no clear path forward. But I also say very plainly that I got it wrong. I voted to give President Bush the authority. I did not appreciate the way he used it. I did not appreciate some of the decisions that were made. So I made a mistake.
We've heard about troops being brought back in as special advisors, the US, 200 brought in to protect the embassy in Baghdad. Is it inevitable that the US, and by default perhaps, the UK, will be drawn back into the region?
I hope not. I don't think that's in our interest, and I frankly don't think it's in the interest of trying to bring an end to the insurgent conflict inside Iraq. The biggest regret I have is that after setting up a democratic process in Iraq, that the government of Prime Minister Maliki was either unwilling or incapable of governing in an inclusive way that brought Shiites, Sunnis, Kurds, and others to the table where they felt they had a stake in Iraq's future.
Let's talk about you as a woman and a politician. You've spoken about the scrunchies.
Yes.
The hairbands you used to tie your hair back.
Yes.
And actually said you maybe even considered calling your book The Scrunchy
did.
Chronicles. 112 countries, and it's still all about the hair.
That's right.
Does that depress you?
No, it amuses me now. I mean, I think initially when I came onto the national scene in the U.S., it was bewildering. It was somewhat surprising. I'd been a lawyer. I'd had a lot of very interesting experiences up until then, and then all of a sudden it was all about my hair and many other things. But the more I've met with women in leadership positions, not just in government, but in academia, in the private sector, in journalism, there still is a double standard. It's unfortunate that we still labor under those kinds of preconceptions. But I think we're making some progress, and we have to continue.
There's a documented spat between you and Vladimir Putin. And he said, it's better not to argue with a woman when he was questioned about that. It almost belittles your political standing to, well, she's a woman.
Yeah, well, he's not the first male leader who's made a sexist comment. And I think it shows his limitations. It's unfortunate that a leader of a great country like Russia would engage in such rhetoric. It doesn't affect me, but it does sort of toughen my resolve that I want to do everything I can for women and girls in my own country and around the world.
Could our viewers have an insight into what you do when you do have some downtime with you and your husband? What do you do to relax?
Here's what we love to do. We love to go on long walks. We have 3 dogs. We love to just get out into nature preserves and walk with our dogs. We like to go to movies, just go into the dark theater and be anonymous. We like to read and talk about the books we're reading. We like to, or at least I should say, I like to catch up on my sleep. My husband still is not convinced sleep is necessary. But, we just like to do everyday normal things with family and friends. That's what we missed when we were so much in the public arena, and that's what we're making up for now.
I heard you like to watch political dramas.
I do.
Like The West Wing, very popular here at one point.
Yes.
Scandal, House of Cards.
Yes, yes.
Which one really is quite accurate?
I'll tell you a funny story I tell in the book. I was in Burma and speaking with their new parliament, and the speaker of the parliament told me very proudly that they were learning how to run a parliament. They'd never really had one before. And I said, well, how are you learning? And he goes, oh, we're watching The West Wing. I found that so charming and also insightful.
You're here for a few days.
Yes.
Have you managed to get any of the action at Wimbledon or the World Cup?
Only on TV. I'm sorry about Andy Murray.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry. I was thrilled when he won last year because he's such a hard-working, incredibly dedicated player.
And let's talk about football, or soccer,
yes,
perhaps, as you're better known. So America left, heads held high.
I thought
put in
so.
A strong performance.
I thought so. I watched the entire match, and I was thrilled because, as you know, this is a great international sport, probably the #1 in the world, but it's not been as fully embraced in our country until recently. And so what you're seeing with this team are really first-generation soccer football players, and I thought they acquitted themselves extremely well. Not only Tim Howard, who was amazing and deserves some kind of medal, I don't know what, but the entire team and the goal from the youngest member of the team. So it was quite a great performance for our country. We were disappointed. We thought we could get further, but I was thrilled at how well they did, and the country turned out. I mean, we had huge watch parties in great big parks around the country and stadiums and, of course, bars and restaurants and other places. People were glued to the TV sets.
Secretary Clinton, thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much for talking to us on Breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.